Good morning and welcome to AICC's first ever virtual plant tour. We're thrilled that so many of our members have joined us today for a walk through the Dusobox facility. As many of you know, AICC is dedicated to uniting and celebrating the success of inspired independent packaging companies. In a normal year, this is largely done at our in-person meetings, which offer in-person tours of members' plants. Like all of you, AICC has had to figure out ways to adapt our current climate, and our convention content and associate committees have come up with this idea of a virtual plant tour. Thanks to our incredibly generous members, we can launch this series today and keep it going into 2021. I have to say that our convention content and associate members, our content committee and our associate members seem to have been right, because I know we have over 340 people pre-registered for this, and the room continues to fill up. Save the date for our next virtual tour with Wasatch Container. That'll take place on Thursday, January 14th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Registration will open soon, so keep an eye on your inbox for more information. I want to thank John Kelly and the entire Dusobox team for taking the time to film this video tour and for participating in this event. In addition, I'd like to thank today's sponsors. Without their support, we wouldn't be able to host these events free of charge to our members. Today's sponsors are HP, JB Machinery, Poteet, and Kiwi Plan. Before we get started, I've got to go over a few housekeeping and scheduling notes, which they've written down for me, obviously. The meeting today will be 60 minutes long. Following the tour of Dusobox, we've allotted 10 minutes for questions to John Kelly and members of his team, and they'll be available along with many of our suppliers who are represented on this tour. If you have a question, please type it in the chat box or raise your hand. If you've participated in our AICC COVID calls before, the Q&A will run in a very similar fashion. Please be advised that all of you have muted, so there is no noise during the tour. Something new we are trying today is that following the Q&A, we'll open breakout rooms with the suppliers. Should you have further questions, wish to learn more, or do some networking, those rooms will be available to you. We'll go over instructions for this when the time comes. We will also post a video of today's live event on our website, and it'll be available for 1 month. We will send out a link to all the participants once it's posted for viewing. Finally, before we begin, I must remind everyone about our antitrust statement. Please remember, AICC is an international trade association, and as such, members are bound to uphold the letter and spirit of all applicable competition and antitrust laws, including those of the United States, Canada, and Mexico. During this meeting, there will be no discussion allowed concerning prices, customers, customer or market allocations, specific accounts, discounts, terms, and all other matters prohibited by law. Now that we've got the preliminaries out of the way, I want to turn the microphone over to John Kelly, Dusobox's president. And thank you very much, John, for having us today.
Thank you, Mike. To all my friends and colleagues, a big welcome. A number of the people on this video conference were directly involved in the successful design, engineering, and execution of the move from the site my grandfather built in 1967 to our new facility, in which we became operational on October 3, 2016. Next year, we'll be celebrating our 70th anniversary, and we're very proud of that. I would like to thank Mike and the team at AICC for the honor of hosting the first virtual plant tour for the members of AICC. I'd also like to thank the sponsors and partners for today's event, all of whom we partnered with for their technology, talent, and trust, allowing us to build one of the most technologically advanced plants in our industry. Those companies, Baumüller, Bobst, Esco, Gottfert, HP, JB Machinery, Kiwi Plan, Poteet Printing Systems, Cambrica, and GF Pool were all instrumental in our success. We have a number of distinguished guests from outside the US in attendance today. I would like to recognize a couple of very good international friends from the industry in attendance. Tony Corsillo from Atlantic Packaging in Toronto, and Mark Van Dam from BPK in Belgium. Finally, I'd like to say hello and to recognize Chuck Throckmorton from the Ward Machinery Company. Chuck was instrumental in our journey leading into our focus on leading edge graphics directly on the corrugated board. Chuck and I worked on the design of the first Ward rotary die cutter with a chambered Dr. Blade system. Many of you remember this as the Verigraphics line of die cutters. That was 33 years ago in this coming February. 8 years later, Chuck and I worked on the introduction and the design of the Verigraphics 2 RDC, which was the first vacuum transfer technology introduced by Ward. Thank you again for your time and attendance today. I hope you can walk away with an idea or two to help your organization. Also, I would be remiss in mentioning that we're happy to help any of you with your high-end specialty packaging and display needs. Laura, I think we're ready for the video.
Good morning and welcome to Dusobox. We're glad you're visiting our facility and we're happy to show you everything that we can do, and hopefully you can take away some good ideas as far as what you can do in your own plant. I'm John Kelly. I'm the president of Dusobox. I'm third generation family member to run this business and very proud of what we do here. Together with my brother Richard and a team of 80 some odd great people, our company exceeds and excels at both execution and both print and converting. So welcome.
For John Kelly, the well-being of the families is linked to the well-being and success of Dusobox. The implementation of modern enterprise applications helps Dusobox to adapt to new products and meet current customer needs. 4 people support our data analytics to improve the business's information needs and support real-time decisions.
Here at Duso, we are proud of what we do in servicing both national and local brands, industrial packaging as well. You can get a sense of a little bit of what we do behind me, both on the display and the retail side.
Displays designed for engineering performance and beautiful design. And production capabilities to take from small to big orders, with a wide variety of designs.
When we built this facility 4 years ago, we moved from a building that my grandfather built in 1967. We built a state-of-the-art facility. The main focus was the collaboration and the open environment, so our sales, client service, and design teams could openly collaborate and work together solving the daily problems of our customers' needs. In this area, we do all our setup and structural design. We have all the latest tools for our structural engineers and the ability to set up full pallet displays, aisle displays, and visualize them before we finalize them and send them to the customer. In our new facility, we moved from 67,000 feet to 150,000 feet. The biggest focus was on material flow and workflow. At our old building, we had 1 door and 4 docks. In this new facility, we receive at 5 and ship from 12 with a very thought-through workflow. Most of our items have more than 1 touch. In fact, we're probably closer to 3 touches per item as opposed to a traditional box plant where you're seeing 1 to 1.5. Behind the camera is all our work in process storage, and then all feeding right into the main line in our main converting lines. As you can imagine, in the retail and display industry, tooling is a critical part, and we have an abundance of it, as you can see. All right, we're in our maintenance department. With this high-tech equipment means we have to have high-tech tools to keep the high-tech running. And when everybody thinks about it, these giant machines, even though they weigh 250,000 pounds, can be they're nothing more than giant computers. And unless we're keeping every bit of it at the most optimal levels of condition and building predictability into our maintenance cycle, they don't remain with an uptime of north of 95%. Now, we use a system called Agility, developed with Cambrica, and it's a full-blown system where we actually are building artificial intelligence into it to bring predictability into our maintenance process, which is critical in bringing more uptime to what we do. We've got a team of 5 very skilled technicians that all work from tablets as well as from the computers. And all the machines, the parts explosions, their electrical schematic, and all drawings have actually been digitized, and they have access to them wherever they are in the plant. In these crazy times that we've been in for the last 7 months, we've had to resort to many measures to keep all the staff safe and keep the virus out of our facility. One of the things that we're an early adopter in is a ultraviolet cleaning sanitizing tool from Oxitec. Now what we can do is we can do basically a square foot a second with ultraviolet light over any touch point. We use it both internally in the office, all the touch points in the plant, forklifts, machines, etc., to keep everyone safe here. In this area, we do all our tooling control and management, as well as ink formulation and blending. All right, next we're going to start into the manufacturing space. We'll start at our 5-color Gopfert and then move to some laminating, some traditional converting, autoplaten cutting and creasing, specialty folding gluing, and then we'll end up at digital space. We're now at our 5-color Gopfert, which precipitated the move to this great new facility 4 years ago. At the time, we invested in some of the greatest technology Gopfert had relative to full sheet inspection, automatic register control, full sheet plate clean or full plate cleaning, IR dryers, and many more options that too many to go into. We run high volume brown, and we run some of the finest multicolor graphics on this press in the region. Come and we can look at some of the features. Here we're looking at the inspection station where we're reading every sheet at even up to 1,000 feet a minute. So everyone is looking for a certain print faults. The pressman is dialed in on this one key area for the customer, and that's what the camera system is very much focused on. And any print fault that comes out is ejected and doesn't get to the customer. You know, some of the other features of this press are we have the automatic register control, both through and across and diagonally. We have the quick change analog roll features, the pre-feeding, which we probably previously talked about, and then one of the best down stackers that's ever been made. So we're making perfect units coming off the press, going to the customer or going to the internal customer. All right, we're looking down at the 5 print stations in towards the feeder. It's our first venture into a pre-feeder and fully automatic loading of that. It's been a great productivity gain for us, and I know the team here on the press very much appreciates it too. Let's take a look at a few of the inspection features and some of the other areas that we focus on here. In this area is where we do our color inspection and color measurement. We use a system called Measure Color. We're printing all spot colors and process colors to a delta E of 1.5 or less. You can see this job was run previously, big flood coat coverage, dark colored blue on model white. Behind me is one of 2 laminating lines that we run here. This is an Automaton 4260, where we do our medium to small size laminating, and then another part of the plant we do our large format laminating. But we are running a multitude of other pieces of equipment. One of the things that we did at the new facility, we had a blend of new and existing equipment. Every piece of equipment that came into the building, though, was stripped down if it was older to match the color pattern of all the new equipment. Whether it's a 20-year-old Automaton, whether it's a 60-year-old printer slotter, or a 50-year-old flexo-folder gluer. They're all made to feel and look the same, even though the levels of technology are certainly different. But again, it's all about consistency in what we do on an everyday basis. In this area, we're walking up to the Bob's Vision Cut. This was the first machine 7-8 years ago where I made the decision that we would only invest in new technology and deploy the greatest amount of technology for both productivity and quality. With the power register, we're reading at the lead edge of every sheet and reorienting as needed for print to cut registration. The same went for what we do on the Gotford with full sheet inspection, automatic register control. The same were deployed in the new specialty folded gluers and also in our digital area. This is our BOPS 160 power register system. With the power register system, we do a multitude of cutting and creasing here, both on flexo printed sheets as well as laminated sheets and unprinted sheets. As you know, I mean, the highest level of precision comes from this type of cutting and creasing, and we pride ourselves at being one of the best at it. Here we're at the Bomular Dusobox 3.2 meter XL specialty folded gluer, configured for straight line, automatic bottom, 4-corner, 6-corner, and multi-point display gluing. Also with the Impro e-commerce tape and tear strip application. We're running straight line today, litho laminated items, and let's take a walk down through the press. We're running straight line, 80-pound litho laminated to craft. So we automaton laminate, cut and crease on a BOPS, auto flatten, and then glue on the Bomular, or it could glue on the expert fold, one or the other. So we take a look at the end of the machine, where we have some of the most innovative bundling technology to make these machines the most productive they can be. We use the SMB, which is now owned by Signode. I think they call it the SigCore now, but one of the, in my opinion, one of the best bundle control and bundling units we have in our industry. So let's take a walk. Part of what makes specialty folded gluers most productive is the handling on the back end and minimizing what the third man on the team has to do. With the SMB bundlers, we control even an automatic bottom on all 4 sides. And we also use wider strapping where it's non-marking for sensitive items like these litho lamb cartons. We have the SMB on the Bomular and also on the BOPS Expert Fold. Even on a sensitive laminated carton like this, with the wider strapping, we're not marking or, otherwise creating a objectionable fault to the customer on a high-end package like this. As previously mentioned, on both our specialty folded gluers, we have the ability to apply transfer tape for e-commerce type cartons and display, as well as tear strips. On the small machine, we're using a traditional tape, and then on the Bomular, on the big machine, we're actually using an extrusion system, obviously a higher speed, more accurate placement, and less adhesive going down, at also a reduced cost point. So it's a dedicated system just to this press, where the tape system we can interchange between both presses. Behind me is our BOPS Expert Fold 165 with capability of straight line, automatic bottom, 4-corner, 6-corner, and multi-point display gluing. We also have full glue detection on this line, as we do on all our specialty folded gluing lines. We're running a laminated shelf-ready package for some sort of food product. In this very noisy area of the plant is our waste. We brought all the waste collection under roof and capture all the dust with a series of 6 bag houses. And, we're generating, multiple trailer loads a week of cuttings that all go back for recycling, as you all do in your own plants. We're completely conveyorized through the plant, and with all automation feeding all the main machines, both in and out. We're walking through some of the holding area for finished goods and work in process. Like I said earlier, we have multiple touches on many of the things that we do, and so it is cycling back through the manufacturing process. We have a small space for finished goods storage and staging for outbound loads. And next we're going to go into our digital area, and where it's nice and cool and very colorful. In our finished goods and shipping area, we, as in the entire factory, both incoming work in process sheets, stock sheets, the whole manufacturing process is all controlled through our Kiwi Plan system. Throughout the building, we have full RF capability, and every unit, when it's moved, is going to a new location and marked accordingly within our system. Many benefits to this, both from an inventory management and also waste control standpoint. Everything, all the forklifts have barcode reading capability, and all automated coming off of the inbound sheets coming in, as well as the outbound loads going out. The final area we'll visit today is our digital printing and converting area, and welcome. In our digital space, we run a HP 15500 HDR machine. It's a multi-pass 6-color printer. With our digital printing, as well as in our 5-color flexo on the gutward, as well as our proofing, we maintain G7 master certification for color space. We take color very seriously here and are constantly measuring it on a daily basis in a job-to-job basis. Also in digital, we run 2 ESCO C64 cutting tables as our primary digital cutting solution. We not only cut digitally, but we also run smaller sheets and bring them back to the plant for analog cutting and creasing as well. This is one of 2 C64 ESCO tables cut by Kongsberg, and as you can see, with automatic feeding, we have manual takeoff on these machines, and we run these cutting creasing lines 18 to 20 hours a day. One of the things that we pride ourselves in is our print capability across multiple disciplines. As I said previously, we hold our G7 master certification in flexo, digital, and proofing, but we only use G7 master certified offset printers. So in the same display, we can blend digital, flexo, offset into the same display and be seamless in all the color management and print quality and execution going to retail. Just part of the daily routine, we're doing calibration on our digital printing and verifying it to the standard in the profiles that were built into the press. We do take color management very seriously. Just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us for this virtual tour of our company. We're very proud of it, very proud of the people, and we want to thank you for participating in the teleconference, and I'm happy to answer any questions or any inquiries as you may have as we go through this and any time afterwards. And thank you, and everybody stay safe.
Dusobox is committed to deliver the most advanced graphics packaging, elevating the industry standards, and providing customers with the brilliant and effective packaging of the future. That is Dusobox, brilliantly effective packaging and displays.
Thank you very much, John. That was fantastic, and thank you everyone for participating. I hope you enjoyed the tour. We've got roughly 10 minutes, maybe a little bit more, for questions for John and his team to provide any further insight in terms of what you saw here on the tour. Please type your question in the chat box. A lot of you have been using the chat box throughout, or raise your hand if you wish to ask a question. To raise your hand, click on participants found at the very bottom of the Zoom window. A list will pop up on the right-hand side. At the bottom will be a button that says raise hand. I think you know what to do from there. Steve Young has been tracking any questions that have been coming in. So Steve, if you want to start us off with the first question, feel free.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Mike. And John, thanks. Great video. The kudos coming in on the chat area are incredible. The first question is, though, what % of your print is double-sided, John?
Two-sided print is probably in the 10 to 15% range of what we do, and it's growing every day as it is for virtually everybody in our industry. I mean, in digital, it's probably closer to 80%. And then on the Flexo side, it's going to be down in the 10 to 15% range.
Okay, so picking up on that, what percent of your portfolio is now digital versus post-print Flexo?
Digital is probably about 15%, 10 to 15% of what we do.
And do you see that growing as fast almost as the double-sided?
Yes, I mean, even today, even since that video was shot 2 months ago, we've migrated the digital department to basically 24 hours a day.
Okay. So again, continuing on the print theme, how is this affecting your litho-lam business versus the Flexo, the post-print digital and litho mix? What are the changes you're seeing there?
I think you got to distinguish between multi-pass machines and single pass machines, and we're running a multi-pass machine. There is still a difference depending on the graphics. I think it's more complementary than anything else, and it allows us more flexibility. One of the things that I'm very proud of when we have a meeting with a customer and a conversation with the customers, with the multitude of print solutions that we have, we will always, even if it's a multi-part display, we will always put that component of the display or that package in the most cost-effective solution for what the need is today, not what it is 6 months from now or a year from now.
Right. What is your crew size? And how many shifts do you run?
We with the pandemic, we scaled back. We were 2 shifts, and well, not 2 full shifts, but now we're running just a blended shift, single shift. But we're operating all the equipment from anywhere from 10 to 14 hours a day. And the good thing is, the pandemic's caused a lot of issues for a lot of people. The beautiful thing is we're actually producing a like volume that we did with 2 shifts with just the blended shift. So I mean, it just goes to show what people put their minds to it, what they what we can do, and what opportunity there is in the future.
Yeah, and here's a related. How many designers do you have, and then how do you manage your design workload and prioritize these?
No, it's like we mentioned in the video, it's when we moved to that space, we built out the almost 10,000 square feet of office space, and it was all designed to be very highly collaborative between sales, customer service, and design. We have a staff of 5 designers, and including the design manager, and they all work very closely. And it's we all have different types of plants and different facilities, but one of the things that I felt was important was that we have real meaningful conversations where there's actually a conference table that separates design and customer service. They're not supposed to be emailing across the office. They're supposed to be actually having a conversation and reviewing a project in like we're used to doing it.
So shifting gears a little bit, talk about this agility program. I had written that down, a couple notes too on that, and we're getting quite a few questions on the agility program by I think you said Cambrica.
I mean, it was a greenfield initiative. I guess I'm 62 years old now, and I've been doing greenfield things for 35 years or so, and it always gives us a leg up. But I mean, it's a computerized maintenance management system, but the real difference is we're leveraging artificial intelligence into the system, and then building predictability. I mean, as everybody knows, in state of the art equipment today, you can have this $5 million line go down because of one photo eye, and putting predictability into when that photo eye will fail or that sensor will fail is very meaningful in getting our downtime to a very, very nominal, 2 to 3% number. And it's important with, and for any company size. I mean, we're, obviously not a multinational, or, we're not chewing up trees or anything like that. We're still a specialty sheet plant, but it's still very important that we meet the customer's needs, and we can't be going down for even a half a day. And, that was the reason we made the major investment with Andy and Rosa Reisman, and they did a great job developing the system, training our people. And the other thing is we actually leveraged other parts of the technology where, as a new piece of equipment was installed, would actually video the training, and that's all built into the system as well. So it's not just a maintenance system, but it's also a training tool, not only for maintenance technicians, but also for pressmen and operators in the future.
How has the e-commerce boom changed your work mix?
It's just driven the whole digital solution. But also I look at it from a display standpoint. It gives us greater flexibility in providing, again, the right solution for the right time for what the customer's need is today. E-commerce is a big part of what we do in digital. And the other part is, as those customers grow, we migrate them into possibly a laminated sheet or multicolor. I mean, I know there was some video of some beer related things that all started in digital. I mean, I think we went through 4 iterations before, we got to where we are today. But, the first iteration was, they were very sustainable conscious. So they wanted a craft looking carton, but they also wanted the froth to show in the beer glass. Well, we don't have white on that digital press. So what did we do? We made whiteboard look like craft, and then so that we could get the effect of the froth. Then we actually took liberty and did some graphics and showed them how we could create the contrast and create the effect of froth, and just use craft paper with digital printing. And then the volume continued to grow, and another iteration went into litho, and then ultimately the standard graphic today is in 4 or 5 color flexo directly on craft, which lends itself to, people think, oh, you only can print on white. There's a tremendous amount of printing that can be done on craft and be just as effective from a graphical presentation standpoint.
We have a hand raised in the participant section, John, from James Thomas at GreenPack. Laura, do you want to unmute him, and James, ask your question?
Yes, I just asked James to unmute himself. Let's just give him 1 second here. Okay. All right. Well, why don't you go to the next question, Steve, and we'll come back to James once we get him unmuted.
Okay, we got a whole list of them here. John, just a kind of basic question. Could you once again tell us how many employees you have at Dusobox, and then how many of those are in the plant area?
It's roughly a 2/3, 1/3 mix between, manufacturing people and logistics people versus the office staff and sales staff. We're roughly somewhere between 85 and 90 of our own people, and then we're complementing that with a cadre of temporary labor, which is our primary way we screen people for and use it for temp to hire.
Mm-hmm. Back to printing, do you think that the single pass digital machines are ready to replace litho? And if so, when do you envision this taking place?
Litho's not going away. I mean, let me just make it very clear. It's not going away. There are things that can be done in digital that are similar to offset or very high-end flexo printing on corrugated. But there are also things that are done very effectively, especially in the high-end branding and in luxury brands, and just even in high-end food, in hard goods, that you're not going to replace with a digital solution. Has the gap closed significantly? It certainly has, and a lot faster than certainly I ever figured. I mean, I thought would be at least another 2 to 3 years down the road before we saw that, this narrowing of the gap. But again, I look at digital as being a complementary process for our customers. And, again, it's about, hey, everybody, it's about the price point of what they're willing to pay and how do we blend the different technologies to be the right solution for what the customer needs today.
Do you have a testing lab, John?
We do not. We rely heavily on our suppliers to meet that, the specifications that we have, and we have a very narrow set of suppliers and work very closely. And it is not an issue for us. We do use outside testing labs for certification when needed, whether it's for industrial packaging or display, and we just outsource that at this point in time.
Right, right. Laura, has James from GreenPack unmuted himself?
Looks like he lowered his hand.
Okay. John, you mentioned the G7 standard from Idea Alliance. How hard is that to obtain? Number one, and is that something that you feel is going to be necessary for any printer these days to attain?
I think it's if you're involved in color and you're serious about color, yes, you need to consider that as one of the alternatives and how is part of your color management system. All right. If you're only printing spot color, that's a different story. But as you venture into the process color world and you're building colors out of multiple colors, it's an imperative. I mean, and we're doing it every day. I mean, so for us, it is an imperative. But if you're printing line work spot color, not so much. Because again, I would expect you to have some sort of color management system that you're printing to a specific number. I mean, a long time ago, we took the subjectivity out of color and we print to numbers. And, our pressmen are trained to print to numbers. Yes, they look at the color variation, and we have graphical tools within the color management system to aid that. But at the end of the day, it's a lot easier and faster to take the subjectivity out of it and bring it back to the science of it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Can you print e-commerce packaging 2 sides in one pass?
No. But again, I made that decision a number of years ago, for 2 reasons. It wasn't in our existing 5-color. It wasn't designed into that particular press at the time, but also for the cost of it at the time. I could afford to do a lot of multi-pass work, before, making the investment the other way. I mean, will the next multicolor press that we purchase have it? Yes.
Good. I think we're probably running close on our time limit.
What we probably need to do, Steve, is we're going to transition to the break rooms, and thank you, John, for this. But while we're doing so, if people want to stay in the main room, they can while we're doing the transition, I'm sure John will answer a few more questions if there are some. So let's just say that we've got 3 breakout rooms, and the suppliers will be grouped together as follows. Room number 1 will be Bobston JB Machinery. In room number 2 will be Baumüller Gopfert and Poteet Printing. And in room number 3, there will be HP, ESCO, and Kiwi Plan. The breakout rooms will stay open until noon, and you can move between the rooms at any time. To access a breakout room, click the Breakout Rooms button found at the bottom of your Zoom screen. A window will pop up with a list of the available rooms. Hover over the number on the right-hand side of the name and click Join. If you are using a tablet or mobile device, click the screen and a breakout room button should appear in the top left corner. Repeat these steps if you wish to move between rooms. Please note, if you do not have an updated version of Zoom, you may not be able to select your room, so please send a message in the chat to the AICC moderator, and we will assign you to your desired room. If you're having trouble, please stay in the main room for assistance. As I mentioned, John's sticking around in the main room. So he will also answer some questions there as well. So I'm moving on to the break room. Laura's going to give everybody a heads up when we're getting close to noon. Thank you all very much.
Transfer with digital ink? If so, what are you doing to combat it?
I mean, I'm assuming the question it relates to subsequent downstream converting and offsetting. To me, the main solution is all about in our case, UV lamps and the calibration of those lamps and the maintenance of those lamps, making sure they're not getting pushed in their hours and, readily keeping them in the prescribed number of hours for utilization. Because I mean, UV printing is a cross-linking technology of monomers into a polymer. And if your lamps aren't exposing and reacting with that ink set, then you're going to have issues with that. But for us, it's basically a non-issue.
Thank you. Another question that I don't believe we got to, but if we did, please tell me. Which at the plant is more challenging? Designing, packaging, printing, or material?
Material. Being a sheet plant, where I look at it, and it was something I've been using as a communication tool for decades. As a printer, sheet plant, converter, just whatever. We're only as good as the weakest link going into our process. So, and I created, this is back when we used to use 35mm slides. I created a slide that I called the printer's humble pie. And basically the filling of the pie was your press, your ink set, your plates, and your substrate, all of which are outsourced. And then what holds that all together and created the pie crust is our team, the people. And we manage, every part of that process as well as we can. And, the biggest variable, and I think every box plant on the call knows, and most of the suppliers know, the biggest challenge and variable part of what we do is in the sheets that we're working with on a daily basis.
Thank you. All right, we have a new question. For next investments, which kind of equipment is in your plan? Flexo, single pass, question mark.
Yes and yes. I mean, we've got an aging, Flexo folded glue. That some consideration has to be given to that, but also single pass inkjet is been very much in my mind for a number of years. And with some of the technology that is evolving as we speak, that decision becomes easier and easier to make. I was honored to be able to work on with Hewlett Packard on the advisory group on both the 15,500 and 17,000 and the C500. And, it's humbling to see how far every bit of that technology has evolved in the last 5 years. We're very much, at the forefront of that. I have a standard set of test files that every one of the press manufacturers have, and as they update the technology, we evaluate what they're doing, and it will be one of the next, investments that we make. I mean, the big thing with digital though is having the systems behind it. If you don't have the systems behind it, and we've been building those for a number of years, but from a workflow standpoint and a color management standpoint, these are not just giant copy machines. You don't just put something in and out comes a perfectly color matched packaging piece or display component. And the technology before it goes to press is where the greatest investment is right now. And these are hundreds of thousands of dollars that everybody has to reckon with before you really get into the single pass environment.
Thank you. Here's a question. I don't know if this one got answered before. What elements do you take into consideration while planning to set up such a plant in the USA? This is somebody from another country.
Can you repeat the question, please?
What elements do you Oh, sorry, somehow I got muted. What elements do you take into consideration while planning to set up such a plant in the USA?
What elements do we take into account for setting up the plant itself?
Yeah, I
mean,
think based on your old plant versus your new one, I think.
Well, our old plant was like many mature box plants around the world. You have a space with a multitude of walls and configurations, and you have a new need, new customer demand, new technology, whatever it is. You find a space and you put it in that space. And it's not always the most efficient workflow, but it's the most cost-effective way to install. One of the greatest joys I had in planning and engineering this new plant was, looking at the long-term workflow, looking at what we have to add and going forward, planning on that space, and also have the ability to easily move pieces of equipment, or thinking about what the easier type equipment is to move, and to create space for the most efficient workflow for that we have right now.
Thank you. All right, so what kind of growth have you experienced year over year in the last decade?
This year, the end of December, we will be, I just use a reference point from the Great Recession, 2009, 2010, we'll have grown over 350%.
Wow. All right, next question. Are the sheets you use in digital different from what you would use on your Goffert? And if so, how does cost compare?
No, we're using the same white liners or same craft liners that we're using in flexo printing that we use in digital. There's no special treatment to those.
Okay. Let's see if there's any more. Does anyone else have a question? I think I've gotten to all the ones. You can either put it in the chat or raise your hands. Okay, here's another question. Is your choice of which platform to offer a customer, in your choice of which platform to offer a customer, how important is the ink cost?
It's all part of the cost calculation. And everybody wants to talk about the cost of digital ink. Is it more expensive? Yes. But there are also ways to mitigate that. And when as I referenced before about digital and the front end costs, we've invested literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in that process. And one of the things that we do is we use a Belgian company called GMG, and we do all our profiling in digital and color management, and their algorithms allow us to save as much as 20 to 25% out of the standard color management systems that usually come with the at least in our case, multi-pass digital printers. And I know the same applies to the single pass machines, but they're just one of several that can provide the same type of solution that do make the difference. And it's part of running a manufacturing operation. It's how do you most optimize and make it the most cost effective in what you do. And it's an ongoing evaluation process, and not just, okay, we did it today and therefore we're set for the next 10 years. No, it's something I'm evaluating on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis.
Thank you. One more question. How have you handled that growth? Capacity first or get the business first? I think he might be referring to you've grown 350% since 2010. I think that might be what he...
I can say we've run out of capacity. So we've built the business first, and then we run out of capacity, and then quickly had to, as fast as we could, react to it. I mean, a good example would be, and especially folding and gluing. We were pushing the limits of what we had, and with a single gluer. And as the transition was going on into the new facility, I quickly made a decision that we had to add in that area. And then that's where, in this case, Bob stepped up, and in a relatively short timeline relative to today, it was still probably, I don't know, 5 months, but we had another solution installed.
Okay. Well, I don't see any more questions. We have 2 minutes left until noon. So if anyone else has a question, if you want to type it in the chat box or raise your hand. No? Oh, wait, hold on.
And I just want to remind everyone that we are recording today's live event. So we will have it posted on our website for 1 month following today, and we'll send out a link to all of our participants either later today or early tomorrow. So if you missed a question or anything like that, we will have it available for 30 days.
Oh, someone else has a question. Is your paper supply totally domestically sourced?
The sheets are all domestically sourced, obviously, but we use white liners from Scandinavia and from Western Europe. So, I hope that answers the question, but I mean, it's, shipping corrugated sheets across the water or, from great distance doesn't make it, it's not feasible, but certainly liner, and we're involved in the specifications of what our sheet suppliers are bringing in to not only supply to us, but to their customers. And we do a great deal of testing on liners, mainly from Western Europe and Scandinavia. And we like to say we stay at the forefront of what, from a qualitative and a productivity standpoint, what best fits our processes.
Oh, he wrote back, yes, that answers my question. So thank you. I think that is all the questions. So unless anybody has anything else they want to add, thank you very much, John, once again, for the video and, all the work that your team put into this. We greatly appreciate it. And it was great.
I'd like to thank my team as well. I mean, they did a great job. They do a great job every day for our customers and for their, and I like to say it, internal and external customers. I mean, it's just as important that we satisfy the needs internally as well as we do, the external customer as well. So
thank you very much.